So here's the thing, in case you haven't noticed, sex isn't really just about sex. Our culture creates a lot of hype around sex. There's marketing and advertising that offers suggestive images of flesh to get you aroused. There's the television and movie studio executives that have gotten bolder and bolder in suggesting sex, approaching sex, showing you sex on screen in all its stylized, fantasized forms. And there's now, in social media especially, a steady stream of images that often gesture towards sex, from suggestive posts to suggestive photos to suggestive lifestyles. But all those images, those scenes, those illusions are actually pointing to something deeper than sex. If they weren't, then managing to find a consistent sexual partner, say a spouse, would make you happy. But all the statistics say that sex itself doesn't satisfy you. There's something deeper than sex that is really energizing, motivating the whole industry of marketing and entertainment it is sitting on top of. And that deeper something is desire. The Bible sometimes refers to desire as an appetite, which I think is helpful. Desire is like that deep craving you have for food when you've skipped a meal. It's always there, that appetite, but it only really grabs your attention when you've stopped feeding it whatever it was longing for. In the Bible, I was expecting to find this sort of noble and virtuous position that pushed desire to the side, that said when it comes to sex, you should simply repress that hunger, push that hunger away, and thus relegate sex into the corner of your existence that you only dutifully engage for procreation in marriage. Instead, the opposite appears in the opening verses of the Song of Songs. Without any context, without any qualification, we are swept up in this song to the woman's desire for her beloved. Listen to this. This is from verse 2 of Song of Songs 1. The woman is going to say, "Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is more delightful than wine." She continues in verse 4. "Take me away with you. Let us hurry. Let the king bring me into his chambers." Where is this passion coming from? I mean, the woman longs for her beloved. She is brave and bold and persistent in this pursuit of her desires. Some commentators point out that there is no hesitation, even in a patriarchal society, for the woman to just boldly initiate what she is looking for. Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth. Take me away with you. Let us hurry. This is a woman who sees and knows what she desires, and her desire is for her beloved. Is it possible that sex, as powerful as sex is really about desire? If you think about it, what is it that sex is pointing us to? Sex is about connection, belonging, the sense of being deeply known, of being vulnerable and entrusting yourself to someone else. I mean, what else is sitting there than desire? That desire for intimacy. That in this act, you can be wholly vulnerable and somehow wholly secure, wholly known, and wholly loved. Of course, sex is powerful. It's pointing us to our deepest desire for union, for oneness, that two might become one flesh. This is where the early church fathers get really interesting. As they read this song, they dared to say that what we see in the lover's pursuit of her beloved is an image for the longing, that deep core-rooted desire that every human soul has for union and restoration to God. Sex was meant to be a sign. It was meant to be a deep physiological yearning our bodies had for union and intimacy with each other, that in the deepest mystical way pointed us to the deep desires of our soul's yearning for God. No wonder sex is powerful. No wonder sex is therefore so often broken and abused. When we abuse, when we are selfish or self-interested, when we are consuming rather than giving, when we turn inwards rather than offer ourselves outwards, when sex becomes about fulfilling our own intrinsic aims or pleasures or hungers, the sign becomes twisted and distorted. But that doesn't mean that desire can ever wholly disappear. Instead, I would be so bold to suggest that every time we go looking for sex to satisfy that desire, we find ourselves continually confronted with our even deeper need for God. There's this great quote, often attributed to G.K. Chesterton, that apparently wasn't actually said by him, but it's so good, I'm going to repeat it anyways. The quote is this: "Every man who knocks on the door of a brothel is looking for God." I think this is what a theology of desire in the Song of Songs is getting at. God has placed eternity in your heart. God has stirred the deep hunger for intimacy in your bones. And sex is not really just about sex. Sex is pointing us to our deeper desire for God, which forces us to ask ourselves, have I really paid attention to my desires? Do I really know what it is I am looking for, I am longing for on this planet, in this moment, in all my distractions and superficial pursuits? Do I think I can find it? Or will sex too merely leave me wanting more? This is just the beginning of our search, and this search, I think, is a search for intimacy. So check out our first episode, The Fragrance of Desire, in our new study on the Song of Songs, Sex and the Search for Intimacy.